Hi, my name is Jamie with MyTarot.org, and I was on a Facebook page, and we're talking about negative cards. And it's one of those things for new people. When a negative card pops up, there's anxiety, you get nervous, you see this card with like a guy with 10 swords sticking out of him, and you're wondering, what am I going to do with this? So I just thought I'd go ahead and do a quick video on reading negative cards, looking at negative cards. And so for this, I'm just going to kind of look at this as if it's a personal spread for self-awareness. But once you understand how to use negative cards in a positive way, you can use this for anyone you're reading for. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cards. So the question is a negative card really negative? So let's think about that for a second. What's the options? Staying in the dark and getting caught by surprise? Negative cards are just signposts that point out areas of focus and prepare for what may inevitably and or possibly happen and be averted. So although tarot cards cannot tell the future, they can open up our minds to the future and to future possibilities. And these are possibilities we often cannot find when left to our own devices. So, for example, I used to have a friend that would point to his head and he would say, "You can't fix what's up here with what's up here." And let's face it, in all reality, our brains are more interested in protecting us and hiding us from our fears and pains. And so to do that, it often will lead us to wanting to stuff down our anxieties by giving into like a desire to binge a TV show until 3 a.m. Or maybe it's about going out and drinking or getting lost, spending too much money, or indulging in any other bad habit to distract ourselves instead of dealing with the reality of what's causing us anxiety. So let's think about this for a second. How can the tarot help? And how can negative cards be a blessing? Okay. So alone, our brains can only comprehend solutions based on our own limited knowledge and can only be based on the furthest limits of our own personal experiences. So, in other words, we're limited by the tools available in our own mental toolbox. But the tarot cards help us to look outside that box and can point us towards, let's say, a new direction and a different kind of solution. So how about let's take a look at the devil card. Hold on for a second here. So we have the devil. And people often see this as a negative, right? Well, maybe this card wants to point out, based on the spread, how we wanted to blame everyone around us other than ourselves. And maybe we can finally see with this card what we need to look at is actually our own actions pertaining to self-harm or that we caused others. So regardless, negative cards tell us to look in the mirror at our own actions and focus on our own responsibility and to look at our own part for whatever negative things that might be haunting us now or coming down the pike. So in other words, the tarot is presenting us with a gift of a new focus and a clearer understanding. So if we don't understand a problem, then we can't understand the solution. And I figured that out with my job because I do software development and engineering. So if you can't understand a problem, then you can't understand the solution. And so how can negative cards be used as a tool to learn and grow? Well, the way I look at it is kind of like with these simple words. Okay, 3 words: awareness, assessment, adjustment. Awareness, assessment, adjustment. Lock that in. Because with awareness, The positive side of a negative card is that it makes us aware that there's an issue and what that issue may be. And once we can finally see and define this issue based on this negative card, we now have something to focus on and can seek out a path that can lead us to the answers as to why this card would appear at this place and this time. It's all about self-awareness, and only when we can name a problem can we truly know what direction to look to find the solutions. So the next word, assessment. Okay, great. So this is the review part of what a negative card can mean to us. It's asking us to look at our negative cards to see where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. It's the negative cards that can help us to find and question ourselves on our own personal negative traits and the effects that they can have on us and those around us. And if you're staring at a card and you're not sure how that negative trait applies to you, perfect. No, seriously, that's perfect, because that leaves room for self-reflection and meditation. So if you're looking at a card and things are going great, how's this applying to me? Well, it's from there that, again, you can look at the self-reflection, you can look at the meditation, and it can give us a new path to follow towards some sort of new self-discovery, which is the purpose of the tarot anyway. So keep in mind that these cards, when you're looking at them, they hold a universal truth that can apply to anyone or everyone. So as you reflect on this card and act as if, just act as if you're holding up some kind of a cosmic mirror so that you can ask yourself, how does this card reflect on me one way or the other? So it does give you something to meditate on and reflect on. So then the next word we were talking about, what was it? It's adjustment. So again, tarot cards do not tell the future, but they can open up our minds to future possibilities. And based on that, now that we have an awareness, as we looked at, of any issue as it's presented by a negative card, we've made an assessment as to what it means to us. Now we can use the cards as a reflection tool to look inside ourselves and see what adjustments we may need to make to our behaviors to be able to move forward towards a new and positive future. So let's look at what kind of cards some people see as negative. So do you do reversals? So I personally do reversals if I'm using the Rider Waite, but if I'm using the Marseille Tarot, I generally don't use reversals. But if you're using a reversal, just ask yourself. And if you look at my morning meditations, when I do the reversals, I do this all the time. And I ask, what will it take to turn this card right side up? If it's the High Priestess, for example, and the High Priestess is reversed, you may be lacking some sort of insight or intuition into an issue. So take the steps to turn this card around and ask yourself, what am I missing here? What do I need to do to gain insight and understanding in this situation when I'm seeing this reversed High Priestess, Pope, the Papist in my spread? What do I need to do to gain insight? And who can I talk to that can help me understand this? So using these type of questions as a starting point, it kind of gives you this way to be able to just ask yourself again, I have this card upside down. The solution then is, what can I do to turn this card around and therefore find your own solution? So you got the reverse cards. And then you have the majors, the trump cards like the Tower, The Tower. Here it is. Ooh, the Tower. Or the Devil, right? So when I'm looking at trump cards, the way I do it is Trump should be treated with an air of seriousness. So some say that the trumps, the major arcana, are the karma or the destiny cards, whatever that means, right? And I personally choose to follow this tradition, and I place a larger importance on the trumps than I do on the minors or the pips. So, with this in mind, when reflecting on a trump card, on one of the major arcana, because when you're dealing with a major trump card, you're also dealing with a major adjustment. If you're presented with a negative trump card, that means it could be more difficult, there could be more effort involved, and it may not be a simple solution just because it is a trump card. It's one of the major arcana. So that's how I see when a trump card gets presented. And then we talked about, the minors, the pips already. So you have the minors, right, that are quote unquote negative. And the minors are considered by many to be just day-to-day cards. Excuse me. They're cards that are dealing with earthly day-to-day problems. But as the old saying goes, it's not the bears in the woods that get to you. It's all the mosquitoes. So it's these day-to-day things. So, let's just kind of think about this for a second with these cards. If we're looking at the Five of Wands, here we are with the Five of Wands. All this is saying is to get ready to defend yourself. Expect opposition. And it's by being prepared for the exchange that we can remember to have our ducks lined up in a row. And maybe if we see this in a spread at some point or another, we meditate, we reflect on it, and maybe we can remember to take that extra moment and maybe that extra breath before responding when we're in this situation, right? Or everybody looks at the Ten of Swords. So when we look at the Ten of Swords, this is all about the mental stressors. It's about, all that anxiety and everything else that we're feeling, And if it's a 10, then by this point, you see it in a spread, you may already know it's going to start to get stressful, or you may already be in the middle of it, and you may already be slammed. So, but what can we do? The question is to alleviate the anxieties tied to this card. Are there any bad habits that or actions or other ways that we're creating our own issues? If so, this card is saying it's time to reflect on that one way or the other. So, yeah, it looks painful and everything else, but it's also saying if this is a future card in the future position, what are our bad habits? What are our actions? What are we doing? So that, maybe if we do analyze it, we can avoid it now. Is it home, work, or other situations, and that anxious feeling appears to be unavoidable when you get the cards like this? Just acknowledging this to ourselves, the feelings that it's unavoidable, just acknowledging it to ourselves and to others, that this stuff is hard. Well, that can give us, like a catalyst to seek the assistance, you might want. You get a card like this and you're meditating on it, another thing is you might just need validation. We all do sometimes. Yes, stuff is piled up and it doesn't matter how we got here. There may be no solution but to ride it out. And as bad as that sounds, if you're looking at this, it's a 10, and 10s are about endings. So just count on the fact that it can't last forever. Hopefully it can't last forever. And while we're riding this out, this card reminds us maybe to never stop trying to find at least some form of a healthy release. And, sometimes just acknowledging the pain to another person can, in and of itself, offer at least some kind of a relief, you know? So, again, the question just comes down to, are negative cards truly negative? If we feel anxious when we see a negative card, then it's probably just because that card is reflecting back something that we're already feeling and it's already inside ourselves. So, no, you know, seeing the truth about ourselves is not a negative. It can be painful and it could hurt, but the alternative is what? Not to look. That's where we're going to keep it buried and let it fester till we explode anyway, because it's going to come out. So, no. The cards we see as negative are actually there to lead us towards maybe a better understanding of ourselves and maybe towards finding a positive change. And with a positive change, that comes from the birth of that first sense of awareness, and positive change can come from that truly honest assessment of ourselves, and then looking at the negative cards and reflecting on them. Then maybe that positive change will come from the actions and the adjustments we can make in ourselves that lead us to hopefully a newer and healthier way to live. So that's my take on negative cards and why they really aren't negative. And I hope you were able to get something from this. And so with that, I hope you have an amazing day. And thank you all very, very much.